My name is Gianna Powell, United States Marine Corps. I always believed family would show up for you on the biggest day of your life, no matter what. But the night before my engagement party at the cloister on Sea Island, my own brother Hunter dragged my $18,000 gown into the backyard, soaked it in lighter fluid, and struck the match. He watched it burn, looked me straight in the eye, and laughed. "I want you to look like a total failure tomorrow." My parents stood right there, arms folded, flames dancing in their eyes. My mother's voice was ice. "You deserve to be ruined." My father didn't say a word. He just nodded. 5 hours later, they walked into that oceanfront ballroom expecting to see me destroyed. Instead, they saw me standing front and center in full dress blues, every ribbon earned in blood and sand, the uniform that makes even generals stop talking. Hunter's smirk died on his face. The color drained from his skin. All he could manage was one broken word. "Gianna, if you're already hooked and need to know exactly how I made them regret ever lighting that match, smash the like button and hit subscribe right now. This one gets brutal fast. Turn on notifications because you do not want to miss what happens next. Let's dive in." 2 weeks before the engagement party on Sea Island, I turned my truck into the familiar gravel driveway in Brunswick. The house looked exactly the same, white siding, wide porch, American flag snapping in the evening breeze, because Dad never took it down. Inside, the temperature felt 10 degrees colder than the Georgia summer outside. Dad sat in his recliner, newspaper open, didn't even lower it when I walked in. "You're early," he said, like I'd shown up uninvited. Mom was already pouring sweet tea for Hunter, who was stretched across the couch, feet on the coffee table, thumbs flying over the brand new iPhone Dad bought him last month. Bailey peeked around the corner from the stairs, gave me the smallest possible smile, then disappeared. Hunter finally looked up. "Well, well. The Marine actually took leave. Thought you people never got time off." I let my duffel hit the floor. "Hey, Hunter. Good to see you too." Mom carried the glass straight to him, ice clinking like he was the only one who existed. "Your brother's been under a lot of stress with school," she said without looking at me. "Try to be understanding, Gianna." Stress. Right. While I had spent the last 20 years deploying everywhere the Corps sent me, Hunter had changed majors 3 times, wrecked 2 brand new trucks Dad replaced the next week, and still slept in the same twin bed he'd had since middle school, rent-free, insurance paid, gas card loaded. Whatever Hunter wanted, Hunter got. Dad finally folded the paper. "Still don't understand why you couldn't pick something normal." The Marines, Gianna, really. I'd heard it 1,000 times. The full scholarship to Georgia Southern I walked away from. The embarrassment I caused the family by enlisting instead of marrying the right kind of local boy. The way I chose that life over them. I swallowed it. "I'm here for the party, not round 200 of this conversation." Hunter snorted. "Speaking of the party, Gavin's already staying with his parents. Guess even he couldn't stomach this place longer than 24 hours. That one actually hurt. Gavin and I had been together 7 years. He was a major, steady as concrete, and his parents actually liked me. Larry and Diane opened their doors the minute we landed in Georgia. I was the one who insisted on staying here in my old bedroom with the faded beach posters because some tiny, stupid part of me still hoped 2 weeks might make things different. Every single dinner followed the exact same script. Mom bragged about Hunter's half-finished business degree and the lifted Silverado in the driveway. Dad talked county commission votes and how many people owed him favors. When the spotlight finally swung my way, it was only to ask why I never wore makeup anymore, or if the military had ruined my chances of ever looking feminine again. Bailey barely spoke, just pushed mashed potatoes around her plate and stared at her phone. One night, when Mom stepped out to take a call, she leaned over and whispered, "I'm really glad you're home," then immediately looked terrified someone might have heard. During the days, I pretended to help with party prep that didn't need helping. Mom had already hired planners out of Savannah. The cloister was completely booked: oceanfront ballroom, live string quartet, 5-course dinner, raw bar, top shelf, everything. My only official job was to smile in pictures and not mention anything that happened after Paris Island. One afternoon, Hunter cornered me in the dining room while I folded the thick cream programs. "Whole town's coming to see if the rumors are true," he said, leaning against the doorframe smirking. "That my big sister's some kind of government assassin now." I kept folding. "Logistics, Hunter. I move containers and people." He stepped closer, close enough I could smell the midday beer. "Sure you do. Just don't embarrass Mom and Dad with your little war stories this weekend, got it?" That night, I sat alone on the back porch steps, cicadas screaming in the pines, staring at the same patchy lawn I used to mow for allowance money. Gavin texted from 10 miles away. "Miss you already. 2 weeks, and that ring is yours forever." I typed back, 2 weeks. I truly believed I could survive 2 more weeks in that house. I was dead wrong. The smell of smoke slipped under my bedroom door at exactly 2:17 a.m. I was out of bed before my eyes were fully open, feet hitting the hardwood, every instinct screaming fire. Not barbecue, not a neighbor burning brush. This was chemical acrid wrong. I yanked on running shorts, snatched my phone off the charger, and took the stairs 2 at a time, barefoot, pulse already in my throat. The back door stood wide open. Night air poured in thick with Georgia humidity and something burning that should never burn. I stepped onto the porch and stopped dead. Hunter was in the center of the backyard, red 5-gallon gas can still swinging from his right hand, cheap plastic lighter glowing orange in his left. My engagement gown, the one that cost $18,000 and required 8 separate fittings with a designer in Manhattan, hung from the old rusted clothesline like a sacrifice. Flames were already racing up the hand-beaded skirt, eating the French lace, turning 20 yards of Italian silk into black curls and gray ash. He saw me and smiled the same slow, vicious smile he used when we were kids, and he broke my things on purpose. "Took you long enough, Gianna." Dad stood 10 feet to the left in his navy robe, arms folded tight across his chest, face flickering orange from the firelight. Mom was right beside him, phone in her hand, but not raised, not calling 911, not doing anything except watching the dress die. Neither of them moved an inch. My voice came out calmer than I felt. "Put it out, Hunter. Right now." He flicked the lighter closed, tossed it into the grass like trash. "Nah, I think this looks better on you as ashes." I took 1 step down the porch stairs. "That's $18,000 you're burning." He shrugged. "Dad's got insurance, or your rich fiancé can buy you another one." "Not my problem." Dad finally spoke, voice flat and hard. "You deserve to be ruined, Gianna. You've spent 20 years acting like you're above us. Maybe this teaches you where you really belong." Mom nodded once, eyes never leaving the flames. "You did this to yourself the day you walked into that recruiter's office." The fire hit the crystal-embroidered bodice. Beads exploded with tiny pops. The skirt collapsed in on itself, folding into a burning heap. Heat rolled across the yard and hit my bare skin like a slap. I looked up at the second floor. Bailey's window was cracked 6 inches. She stood there, small shadow behind the screen, eyes wide, one hand pressed to her mouth. We locked eyes for half a second. I waited for her to scream, to run downstairs, to do anything. She didn't. She just pulled the curtain shut and disappeared. I turned back to Hunter. "You just committed a felony." He laughed, short and ugly. "In this county, with Dad on the commission. Good luck with that." Dad stepped forward close enough now that I could see the reflection of the flames in his glasses. This weekend was supposed to be perfect. The cloister, the photographers, the people we actually care about impressing. "You were never going to fit that picture in the first place," Mom added, almost soft, like she was giving advice. "We told you the military wasn't for girls from families like ours. The last piece of silk turned black and drifted to the ground. The smell of melted zipper and scorched crystals hung heavy in the air. All that was left on the clothesline was the top third of the torso charred wires, where the boning used to be dripping like a corpse. Hunter kicked at the ashes with his sneaker. "Guess you're wearing your uniform tomorrow, huh, sis? Or maybe sweatpants. Either way, you'll look exactly like what you are." Dad turned toward the house. "Clean this up before the neighbors wake up." Mom followed without another glance at me. Hunter brushed past me on the porch steps, shoulder slamming into mine hard enough to make me step aside. "Sleep tight, General," he whispered, voice dripping venom. The screen door banged shut behind them. Upstairs lights flicked off one by one until the whole house went dark again. I stayed on the porch until the last ember cooled and the yard smelled only of wet ash and gasoline. Then I walked back inside, climbed the stairs without making a sound, and started packing everything I'd brought. By 4 a.m., I was already flying down Highway 82 pedal-flat speedometer needle, kissing 100 South Georgia pine trees, nothing but black streaks in the headlights. Windows cracked just enough for the cold night air to slap me awake. No radio, no tears, just the steady roar of the engine and a single thought locked in place. This ends today. I had packed in exactly 15 minutes. Civilian clothes in one duffel, toiletries, the small velvet box with the ring Gavin still didn't know I carried everywhere, and the locked hard case that held my dress blues. I left the backyard exactly as they wanted it, ashes, gasoline, stink and all. Let them figure out what to tell the yard guy on Tuesday. The house stayed dark and silent when I walked out the side door. No footsteps behind me, no shouted questions. I simply stopped existing inside those walls the second my boots hit the gravel. 3 hours of empty highway later, the main gate of Marine Corps Logistics Base Albany appeared out of the dark. The young Lance Corporal on duty snapped to parade rest when he saw the sticker on my windshield, then threw me a crisp salute as the barrier lifted. I rolled straight through and parked beside the officer's lot near the base golf course. Dawn was still 40 minutes away, but the course floodlights were already on cutting white tunnels across the dew-soaked fairways. One lone golfer in a Navy windbreaker was teeing up on the first hole. I killed the engine and walked over cover tucked under my arm boots, crunching on the cart path. Major General Marilyn Frost, United States Marine Corps, retired, turned at the sound. 62 years old, silver hair tucked under a Titleist cap posture, perfect swing, still textbook. She had pulled me out of the fire literally and figuratively more than once. One look at my face and she lowered the driver without a word. "Talk," she said. I gave her the short, cold version. The $18,000 gown reduced to ash. The brother who lit the match. The parents who stood there and watched. The little sister who saw everything and did nothing. I kept it factual, voice level, the same tone I used when briefing a 4-star. When I finished, silence stretched between us for a long 10 count. Then she nodded once sharp. "Open the trunk. Get your blues." "Ma'am. You heard me?" She slung the club over her shoulder like a rifle. "Mine are still in the pro shop locker. 10 minutes. We're going to that party together." I opened my mouth to object. She cut me off with a look that had ended careers. "I've known you 15 years, Gianna. You don't fold. You don't run. And you damn sure don't let a bunch of small-town civilians think they get the final say." She paused, eyes narrowing. "Besides, I never could stand your mother." The tiniest crack appeared in the ice inside my chest. We changed in the empty clubhouse locker room that still smelled of lemon oil and old leather. My blues came out perfect creases, sharp enough to cut glass ribbons in perfect rows, stars polished 2 days earlier. General Frost emerged from the next aisle in her own set. Retired or not, the uniform fit her like the day she pinned on her second star. The fruit salad on her chest was longer than my forearm. She caught me staring. "Retirement ceremony was last year," she said, adjusting her cover in the mirror. "Dry cleaner still works miracles." We stood side by side, two women in dress blues under fluorescent lights, metals catching the glare like warning lights. She reached over and straightened my cover with practiced fingers. You walk in there like you own the ground under your feet because today you do. Anyone gives you trouble, they answer to both of us. I met her eyes in the mirror. Yes, ma'am. She flashed the smallest, sharpest smile I'd ever seen. Good. Now let's go show a few people what real power actually looks like. We rolled out in her black Suburban, two sets of dress blues, riding north through the breaking dawn, the causeway to Sea Island waiting straight ahead. The first edge of the sun painted the marshes gold as we crossed the bridge. The valet almost dropped the keys when I stepped out of the black Suburban in full dress blues at exactly 6:30 a.m. sharp. The Cloister's grand porte-cochere was already alive with early arrivals, Range Rovers, Bentleys, the soft click of designer heels on cobblestone. The college kid in the burgundy vest reached for the fob, looked up, and completely forgot how words worked. His eyes went from my white gloves to the perfectly aligned ribbons to the cover tucked under my left arm. The keys slipped through his fingers and clattered on the stone. General Frost climbed out the driver's side in identical blues. Two valets, two open mouths. I handed him the fob. Park it close. We won't be long. He managed a strangled yes ma'am and scrambled to pick the keys up. We walked under the arched breezeway toward the oceanfront courtyard. Every conversation within 50 feet died instantly. A woman in a cream linen dress and 4-carat studs literally stopped mid-step, champagne flute frozen halfway to her lips. A man in pastel seersucker took one look and stepped backward into a potted palm like he'd seen a ghost. The courtyard opened into the main lobby, soaring ceilings, crystal chandeliers, catching the first pink of sunrise, marble floors polished to mirrors. A string quartet was warming up near the grand staircase. The violinist's bow squeaked and stopped the second we crossed the threshold. Diane Knight spotted me first. Gavin's mother stood near the concierge desk in pale blue silk, and Pearl's coffee cup paused mid-air. Recognition hit her like a wave. The cup lowered slowly, eyes filled, and she whispered my name. Gianna. Then louder, almost breaking Gianna. She crossed the lobby in 4 quick strides and threw her arms around me. Metals be damned. I felt her shake against my shoulder, tears already soaking the wool. Colonel Larry Knight, retired, followed right behind her, still tall and ramrod straight at 65, blazer perfect, silver hair perfect. He didn't hug. He snapped a salute so crisp it could cut glass fist to hard eyes, shining with something that looked a lot like pride and fury mixed. Outstanding Marine, he said, voice rough, damned outstanding. Diane finally pulled back hands, still gripping my shoulders, looking me up and down like she needed to memorize every ribbon. You're in uniform. Oh, honey, you're in full dress blues. I am. Larry's gaze slid to General Frost and widened another degree. General Frost, ma'am, honor to see you. General Frost inclined her head. Colonel. Couldn't miss this one. More of the night guest list was streaming in now, active duty officers in summer whites, retired flag officers with fruit salad older than I was, CEOs who golfed with 4 stars, Georgia state senators who still called Larry Sir. Every single one recognized the uniform instantly. Every single one shut up. A retired Navy vice admiral I'd once briefed in Djibouti walked straight over, came to attention, and saluted me first, then General Frost. A 1-star Army brigadier followed, then a Marine colonel I'd served with in Helmand. The lobby turned into an impromptu salute line that kept growing. Diane wiped her eyes, laughing and crying at the same time. We thought something terrible happened when you went dark on the phone. Gavin's been losing his mind since 5. Where is he? Inside the ballroom with the planners doing final walkthrough. He has 0 idea you're here like this. Larry put a steady hand on my back. Come on, let's give my son the best shock of his life. We moved as a tight group through the lobby past the concierge desk where every staff member now stood at parade rest past the boutique windows displaying handbags that cost more than most cars, past the hushed whispers that followed us like a wake. Phones were out again, but no longer for sunrise selfies. Videos were rolling. Someone whispered loud enough for half the lobby to hear, "That's two female generals in dress blues." Another voice answered, "No. The younger one is the bride." Diane squeezed my arm so hard I felt it through the wool. "Whatever made you choose this uniform today, thank you. This is the proudest moment of my life, and I'm not even your mother yet." Larry growled low. "Your blood relatives are about to learn what happens when they mess with a United States Marine." We reached the massive double oak doors of the oceanfront ballroom. Music and laughter leaked through the crack, bright and oblivious. General Frost stopped, turned to me, voice low. "Your show now, Major General." I took one slow breath of salt air gardenias and polished oak. Then the double doors swung open and Hunter strutted in first at exactly 7:15 a.m., like the entire resort had been waiting for him. He wore a light gray summer suit that cost more than most people make in a month. Hair slicked back with enough product to survive a hurricane grin, dialed to maximum arrogance. Dad followed 2 steps behind in navy blazer and pressed khakis, Mom clinging to his arm in a peach silk mother-of-the-bride gown, both of them scanning the ballroom for the applause they assumed was already theirs. Hunter's eyes locked on the head table where Gavin was adjusting a place card in his summer whites. He opened his mouth ready to shout some loud, obnoxious greeting across the room. That was the exact moment he finally saw me. The grin froze solid. His face went chalk white so fast I thought the blood had stopped moving. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. The only sound that came out was a cracked, broken Gianna. Dad stopped mid-stride. Mom's manicured hand flew to her throat, pearls clicking. 200 guests turned in perfect synchronization. The string quartet hit a sour note and never recovered. Crystal champagne flutes paused halfway to lips. Phones rose like a synchronized wave. Because there I stood dead center of the oceanfront ballroom in dress blues most of them had only ever seen on television. 2 silver stars gleamed on each shoulder under the chandeliers. The ribbon stack ran longer than my hand. Every campaign ribbon, every commendation, every piece of metal I had earned in 20 years of service sat in perfect silent rows. Major General Marilyn Frost, retired, stood half a step behind my left shoulder in identical blues, her own 2 stars flashing like warning beacons. Colonel Larry Knight's voice sliced through the silence first, deep, proud, impossible to ignore. "Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to present Major General Gianna Powell, United States Marine Corps, and Major General Marilyn Frost, United States Marine Corps, retired, the bride and her chosen escort." A retired 4-star Army general near the front table stood first. Then every active duty and retired officer in the room. 200 chairs scraped back at once. The standing ovation started slow, then detonated. Hunter still hadn't moved a muscle. His face had gone from white to green like he might be sick on Italian marble. Dad tried to recover plastering on a smile that looked painted on. "Gianna, honey, we were so worried when you didn't come down this morning." Larry Knight cut him off without raising his voice. "Ronald, I believe you've met my future daughter-in-law. Major General Powell currently outranks every soul in this room, except General Frost and the Almighty." General Frost spoke next, calm and arctic. "I've mentored Gianna for 15 years. She doesn't do drama for attention, so if she's wearing dress blues to her own engagement party, certain people need to start explaining why right now." A Navy captain at table 3 muttered loud enough for 6 tables to hear, "Holy hell, she's a 2-star. The whisper spread like fire through dry grass. Phones were out in force now, live stream counters climbing past 10,000 in seconds. Gavin pushed through the crowd in summer white's cover tucked under his arm. He stopped 2 feet away, took in the stars, the medals, the absolute stunned silence, and his eyes filled. Then he dropped to one knee on the marble floor in front of 200 people. "Gianna," he said, voice cracking just enough to be human. "I have never been prouder to be the man who gets to stand next to you." The room erupted again. Cheers, whistles, camera flashes popping like gunfire. Hunter finally found his voice high and shaking. "This is insane. She's just showing off because Larry turned on him like a turret-locking target." "Young man, the last person who disrespected a Marine general in my presence spent 30 days in the brig and wrote a 5-page apology. Choose your next sentence very carefully." Mom tried the sugar root. "Sweetheart, maybe we can all talk privately." General Frost again, voice flat enough to skate on. "Private conversations ended the moment your family decided arson was an appropriate response to jealousy." Gasps rippled outward. Someone whispered arson, and it spread faster than the applause had. Dad's face went purple. "Now see here." Gavin Rose slowly stepped between my blood family and me and spoke for the first time since entering the ballroom. "Mr. and Mrs. Powell Hunter, you are guests at an event paid for by my parents. Start behaving like it, or resort security will finish this conversation on the sidewalk." Hunter looked around for backup and found exactly none. 200 faces that had been ready to clap him on the back 10 minutes earlier now stared like he was contagious. The head planner appeared out of thin air headset, askew, eyes huge. "Major General Powell, your table is ready whenever you are. And General Frost, we have added a seat of honor immediately." I still hadn't spoken a single word. I didn't need to. The entire ballroom already belonged to me. I didn't raise my voice. I just looked straight at Hunter and told the room the truth for the first time all morning. Last night at 2:17 a.m., my own brother doused my $18,000 engagement gown in gasoline and set it on fire in the backyard, while my parents stood 5 feet away and watched. Mom told me I deserved to be ruined. Dad agreed. The ballroom went so quiet the ocean outside sounded loud. Hunter's mouth flapped open first. "That's bullshit. She's lying to make us look bad." Larry Knight's voice cracked across the room like a rifle shot. "Young man, you will stand there and keep your mouth shut until the general finishes." Hunter shut it. I kept going, same even tone. They did nothing to stop it. My 17-year-old sister watched from her bedroom window and stayed silent. "That's why I'm standing here in dress blues instead of the gown I spent a year planning." Mom switched to instant tears, clutching Dad's arm. "Gianna, baby, you know how tension affects a family." General Frost cut in calm and arctic. "Tension doesn't make you commit felony arson against a 2-star general, ma'am." A retired Navy admiral muttered 18 grand up in smoke, and the number rippled outward like a curse. Then the side door opened and Bailey walked in. She wore the pale pink junior bridesmaid dress Mom had forced on her hair-curled eyes, red and swollen. Every head turned. She walked straight down the center aisle, stopped 5 feet from Hunter, and spoke loud enough for every phone to catch it. I saw everything Bailey said, voice trembling but steady. Hunter poured the gas. He lit the match. Mom and Dad just stood there. I was terrified last night. I'm not terrified now. Gianna is the only person in this family who ever protected me. Today, I protect her. Mom made a strangled sound. Dad's face went the color of raw meat. Hunter rounded on Bailey. "You little traitor!" Gavin moved faster than I'd ever seen him, 1 step forward, shoulder blocking Hunter from my sister. "Finish that sentence and you'll do it through broken teeth." The room turned like a single organism. 200 people who had been politely neutral 30 seconds earlier now stared at my blood family with open disgust. Phones stayed up. Live stream counters were past 70,000. Dad tried the politician smile one last time, hands raised. "Folks, this is simply a private family matter blown out of proportion. We're all very proud of Guyana's accomplishments." The senior senator's wife from Georgia stood up, voice pure Savannah Steele. Ronald Powell. I've sat on charity boards with you for 20 years. You just admitted you watched your son destroy property belonging to a major general. You are finished in this state. A defense contractor CEO at Table 2 added loud enough for the back row, "My firm will remember exactly who raises cowards and arsonists." In seconds, the Powell name became toxic waste. Guests physically turned their chairs. A retired Marine gunny I didn't know walked over and planted himself between my parents and me like a shield. 4 more veterans followed without a word. Hunter tried to laugh it off. "Come on. It was only a stupid dress." A SEAL commander I'd once shared a helo with in Helmand leaned in and said very quietly, "Walk away now, son, or I'll fold you into pieces small enough to mail home." Hunter backed up until the wall stopped him. Dad's face collapsed. The commissioned smile was gone. He looked old, small, and suddenly very afraid of the room he once thought he owned. Mom's theatrical sobbing started. No one moved to comfort her. Bailey crossed the last 5 steps, took my gloved hand in both of hers and squeezed. "I'm sorry I waited until now." I squeezed back once. "You're here now. That's what matters." General Frost rested a hand on my left shoulder. Larry on my right. Gavin stood solid at my side. In under 2 minutes, my blood family had been publicly, completely, and irreversibly erased from the room. 4 resort security officers in blazers appeared at the main door's faces professional stance final. The message required no words. It was time for them to go. 6 months later, Gavin and I were unpacking in Okinawa, the ocean glittering through the open balcony doors of our new quarters on Camp Foster. The engagement party had continued without a single hiccup the moment security escorted my blood family off the property. The quartet started again. The raw bar opened and the dance floor filled before the doors even closed behind them. Diane cried happy tears all day. Larry toasted me like I was his own daughter. General Frost stayed until the last song, then saluted me on the front steps at midnight and told me I had made the Corps proud. Bailey moved in with the Knights the same week. She finished senior year at a private academy in Savannah, got early acceptance to the Naval Academy, and now calls me every Sunday from Annapolis. We never mention Brunswick unless she brings it up first. Back home, the fallout was swift and merciless. Dad's county commission seat was gone within 30 days. The same people who once begged for his vote suddenly couldn't remember his name. The local paper ran the headline, "Commissioner Silent While Sun Burns General's Gown." He resigned before the ethics hearing even started. Hunter lost his ROTC scholarship the second the live stream hit the commandant's desk. No branch would touch him after that. Last I heard, he was bartends at a shrimp shack on St. Simon's, still telling anyone who will listen that the Marines ruined his life. Mom's garden club presidency evaporated overnight. Invitations dried up. The country club membership got quietly revoked for conduct unbecoming. She tried posting tearful apologies on Facebook. The comments were brutal and unanimous. I blocked every number, deleted every account, changed my emergency contact to Gavin. The only mail I still get from Georgia is the occasional postcard from Bailey with a plebe year update and a pressed cherry blossom. Gavin and I married 3 months later in a small chapel on Camp Lejeune. Just 50 guests, Marines mentors, and the Knights. General Frost gave me away. Larry walked Bailey down the aisle as a surprise bridesmaid. I wore dress blues again. Gavin wore his. We didn't need a gown. The video from the cloister still circulates. It has 23 million views now. Every few months, a new clip goes viral and another wave of strangers messages me, "Thank you for your service, and you handled that like a boss." I answer the ones from young female troops and ignore the rest. Sometimes late at night when the Pacific is calm, I think about that backyard fire. Not with anger anymore, just distance, like reading about someone else's life. I learned 3 things that weekend. First, family is not blood. It's who shows up when the match is lit. Second rank isn't the stars on your shoulder. It's the choices you make when no one is filming. Third, forgiveness is a luxury I don't owe anyone who smiled while my future burned. Gavin walks in from the kitchen carrying 2 beers, kisses the top of my head, and hands me one. Still thinking about Georgia, he asks. I take a long drink, watch the sun drop into the East China Sea, and smile. Not anymore.